What's up, guys? I'm back with another video. This time we'll be looking at a review of the Witch from Mercury high grade 1/144th Heindree Sturm. First off, I'm going to start by saying Witch from Mercury was alright. The mech designs were probably the highlight of it though, so that's a good thing. The model kits surprisingly are quite nice. This is one of the better high grades I've handled in quite a while. I can understand why these kits have gone on to become some of the most liked modern high grades. Definitely best for newcomers too. But let's take a look. Let's see what the model has to offer, and let's see what the model's overall engineering's like. Alright, so first things first, we'll start off with size. The kit stands roughly about, just at 5 inches. But that's because it's a relatively small high grade, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. First things first that I want to point out is that head sculpt is great. I love the design of this in general. It looks like an early concept of something from a much different series. On top of something else I want to point out is something you don't see high grades ever do. You have a cockpit. An actual fully visible, fully functioning cockpit. That thing's awesome. I went ahead and I colored the inside of this with chrome silver with a Gundam marker, so that way it wouldn't actually show up a little bit and show up on camera, obviously. I can see it a little better there. Just a nice looking thing. It's a nice additive, really. And the detail on parts of this are nice. The standout things about the kit, as you could just see, one, you had a cockpit, but two, this entire kit is set up with having a pseudo inner frame, meaning most of the articulation and most of the kit itself works through the means of you build everything up from like a pre-existing skeletal system. Like these are exposed, this is a whole separate area you build up, all of the torso you build up, you build the shoulders up, and then you put the armor on separately, which is a really nice touch. Matter of fact, it's a really nice feature in general that I wish more high grades would do. I know most of the Witch from Mercury kits do it. Now, another awesome thing about this kit, there are hardly any stickers. The only stickers you get in the box that are included are for behind the eyes, which I didn't do because you can do the same thing with the chrome Gundam marker. And these little metallic purple bits here and here on the front and back of the shoulders. I don't know how well you can see them here. Let me take a little bit of, yeah, with those chrome metallic purple there, and the chrome metallic purples here on the back. And then of course the green and the beam rifle that, again, all I did was with some Gundam markers. You can just do these with basic Gundam marker sets. Nothing too out of the ordinary for it. Now, the sad thing is that the color accuracy is not 100%. So if you want 100% anime accurate, you're not going to be able to get that since it's a little too light of a purple for that. But let's go ahead and run down the articulation. So I'm going to take the shield off for this. The shield connects right here on these little sockets. Here at the shoulder, here at the sides of the wrist. This little clip, they just clip on. They hold on surprisingly tight too. You just saw that. For the shoulders, you get a full horizontal movement, which is surprisingly impressive. You get a pretty decent bicep swivel. You get a full 90 degrees at the elbow. One of the disadvantages is that the hand does tend to pop out of socket a lot. What I mean by this is the fact that you do this, it's fine, but anytime you start wiggling it around to start getting in certain gun poses and things, you're going to start popping it out of socket, and it's going to start getting loose and probably fall off like mine has a few times. This reminds me a lot of the Leo, which was a previous video that I'll link at the end of the video, but the Leo essentially is very similar to this in it's comprised mostly of ball joints and no polycaps, which is nice. As for the hips, well, the torso, you've got a pivot that goes forward, a pivot that doesn't go back. It does pivot side to side, which is pretty nice for a modern high grade. The head can look like that, pretty high up surprisingly for the design, but that's because the neck has a slip joint in it. And side to side is limited from the collars here. But if you take the breastplate off, then you'll obviously get a little better range out of that. These little back pieces can pivot. They're on just floating ball joints. They're on a little hinge too. The hips can go all the way out. I mean, all the way out, which is impressive. All the way forward. All the way back, if they weren't blocked by this. You have a really nice swivel there. A good hinge joint there that you get about 90 degree out of. The entire ankle mechanism is on a ball joint, allowing for that much to the side, that much to the other side, a little bit forward, a little bit back. Surprisingly, to be a kit with a bipedal leg, it also stands up really well, as you just saw, obviously. And again, here's that hand getting a little loose. Then, of course, you've got the articulation on the back, which is not that bad. You've got the beam cannon can pivot up around the shoulder. That looks pretty nice. The storage for the beam sabers right here in a little socket, again, a lot like the Leo. You've got the standard beam rifle that's surprisingly very nice for what it is. It's quite a simple but really effective design, and he can actually hold it too, since, you know, the way these kits are designed, they can actually hold their weapons effectively. Yeah, it looks pretty good. You can hold his beam rifle super realistically. Of course, you'd want a shield somewhere on here, but yeah, that looks nice. You can have him just in a battle-ready pose, and you know, look good either way. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great kit. The articulation's solid. No polycaps makes the kit surprisingly much more rigid than you'd imagine it would be, considering how small it is. It's definitely a hobby product that I was expecting to be more model kit-like, less action figure-like when it was finished. My only disadvantage I'd say the kit has is the fact that you get no option hands, so you get no style pose hands, meaning a pose like this would be really cool if you had like a pointing finger or a style pose hand, or, you know, something, but not having that makes the kit kind of limited in some of the poses you can pull off and some of the articulation you can get from the kit. But aside from that, I mean, the kit looks great. It's a little bit color inaccurate, but again, that's because the color of kind of that orchidy, purpley gray that all of this gray armor is kind of hard to mimic in just injection molded plastic. Now, of course, if you're painting the kit, that could look a lot nicer. So there's that. But overall, I would say that everything is just solid. It holds up good. I'm actually very, very impressed with what the kit is, considering it's just a grunt suit from an anime that did okay compared to other Gundam series. The action-based connector is in a weird location too. It's dead center on the cross guard of the hips, which means that there's no articulation running in here. It's just the pegs and the hinges are on the leg and not running through the hip. That, despite that being in a weird location, that's actually a really nice and effective way of getting things onto an action base. It works super good. It's super sturdy. It holds the kit really well. The kit cuts a nice silhouette. It reminds me a little bit of Samus, though, from Metroid from Body Shape, which I've seen some customizers in the Gundam community do that, and it looks phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it's a super fun kit. If you can get it for about retail, I'd pick it up. I know that Hobby Lobby's been having this kit a lot as a part of their 40% off hobby sales. I'd pick it up. It's a really well done model kit. It's got really quite a few things that make it super nice. And then of course, the only other cons I'd say it have is, you know, maybe a little bit of color and accuracy, but I mean, that's perfectly fixable. Other than that, the model looks the part. It does the job well. My overall final verdict on this kit is very simple. Well, that's one disadvantage too, is that the kit has trouble standing in some wild poses given the bipedal legs, but that's to be expected with a kit with bipedal legs. My overall verdict of the actual model is really high, in all honesty. It's a nice model, especially for the price, and with it being a grunt suit, the engineering's top notch for something that literally only appeared as a jobber enemy throughout most of the series. And especially for a high grade. The color accuracy, that's close enough. I mean, it's not like you're gonna really go out of your way to make sure a jobber grunt suit's gonna be that on par. The translucent purple parts are phenomenal. Probably my favorite part of the kit is all of these translucent purple parts. I mean, they're phenomenal. Even in the cockpit, they look great. They're super awesome. I would highly recommend you pick up the kit just for that. They're very nice. I like the idea that the cockpit's visible without a breastplate. I don't know if other From Mercury kits do that, but that's really cool if they do. The weapons are cool. You have a lot of options to do. I mean, you can do full-on beam sabers, which, while I'm talking about that, let me go ahead and just show you the beam saber. It's just your basic standard high-grade beam saber that's come with pretty much every UC kit ever, but yeah, you get two blades but one handle, much like the strike dagger. Again, a video I can link if you guys would like to. But yeah, you get a little bit of a curve to it. It's gonna look nice. It looks good. It's accurate. It's basic, but I mean, it's to be expected. It's one of those high grades you don't have to take the back of the hand off to slide the weapons in. You can just do that and it's gonna look fine. But I'd say whether you're a fan of From Mercury or not, or whether you're just a fan of grunt suits, definitely pick this up. From Mercury connection or not, it's a fantastic model. This has probably become my favorite model in the high grade line. This thing's great. The more I mess with it, the more I find little engineering tactics and little engineering trades done to this model that are just phenomenal. I mean, from the way the panel line placement is, from the way articulation works, from the way certain panels shift when you move parts, to the pseudo inner frame that it has, to the way the weapons work. There's something nice about this kit in the overall thing. And plus, it's super easy to build. It follows that 30-minute missions way of doing assembly and its instructions, where you start at the head, then you go to the torso, and then you go to the hips, and then both the legs, and then both the arms. It's broken down super simple. You can't mess it up. So especially if you're a beginner getting into the hobby, I would definitely recommend you pick up at least this kit or any From Mercury kit. From what I've seen, they seem to all be really, really nice. This has made me more of a fan of the From Mercury high grades. I'll probably be picking up a few more now. If they're all at least as halfway solid as this kit, I'll definitely be picking up the Aerial for sure. But, I mean, there's not a whole lot else I can say about this kit. It really doesn't do anything massively wrong. Its pros far outweigh its cons in the way of making it a solid, decent release for all hobbyists, whether you're a skilled, long-time hobbyist, or whether you're a novice, or whether you're just a newcomer completely. Extremely good kit. The color separation's great. The articulation's great. Everything just works the way it's supposed to work. It looks good. it's what I would honestly recommend over the Leo now. I thought the Leo was going to be probably the top-notch grunt suit high grade we'd get. This turned out to be more. Definitely pick up the Heindree Sturm if you want just a great overall around fun, easy, quick build you can do on a weekend night that doesn't require a whole lot of effort. Because even the nub placement, I'm sure I can show you a little bit here. Even the placement of the nubs, like here and here, you can't really tell too much. Let me get that in focus for you. You can't really tell too much where they were supposed to be at, since that's just how well engineered the kit is. Even on lighter parts of the armor, it's hidden. Most of the purple parts, it's hidden. The nub placement's, layout that requires very little sanding or nub removal overall on the kit. As long as you cut close to the surface, you can do the old thumbnail technique and just scrape it down to bare plastic. It's going to look great. That's just such a wonderful thing for me, that it makes the way of building this model so much faster and more fluid. And of course the shield is just so simple, but it works. The connection is kind of like that of a master grade, where it's just, it's a peg that plugs into the shield with a little stick coming out of it that then plugs into the arm. I mean, you can have it displayed straight up, you can have it displayed out, you can have it displayed forward, back. The only disadvantage the shield has is one of the only cons, I'd say, for the articulation and the engineering of the way the shield connects, is it's kind of hard to pose the shield while it's on the model. You're going to have to pop it off, pose the shield, then pop it back on. But that's not hard. I mean, you can pivot it on that hinge. It will pop off occasionally, but that's just from the way it's assembled. It's just on a pressure hinge. But yeah, I mean, I hope you guys go out and pick one of these up for yourself. They're fantastic. Even if you don't pick it up yourself, if it's bought as like a gift or something, it's still a fantastic model to have in your collection. Whether you like the anime it's from or not, it is a fantastic model kit. I hope you guys really liked this. I figured I would do something a little different. I figured I'd briefly talk about the anime in this segment. You guys can skip it if you want to, but my thoughts on the anime essentially was okay. It could have used a little more time to establish some more plot, establish some more development. It felt a little bit on the rushed side, but then again, it was rushed. It was an okay series. It was definitely not something I would say is terrible. I mean, there are far worse Gundam series out there, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, you got 24 episodes there. It's enough to watch some good mech fights. The plot leaves a little bit to be desired and all of that, but I mean, that's the thing, is that you're talking about someone who's experienced Gundam for essentially what Gundam has always been, so which From Mercury changed up a nice chunk of the plot, changed up a nice chunk of the way Gundam does its writing. I think that if it would have been given time, it would have been probably a classic like 00, but I can see it sort of going in the Riken Gusta and G route, where it starts becoming more of an obscure thing once its popularity on the internet's kind of died out. That's because the series had no time to develop anything. It just kind of rushed through most of its plot. If we're ranking it amongst other Gundam series, I'd say about as good as Iron-Blooded Orphans, but I mean, some of the models are a lot better, and I think the pacing and storytelling is about the same as Iron-Blooded Orphans, to be honest. Except it does some things a little better, where it spends more time with development, obviously, but I think if the series would have had time to shine and would have had time to actually explain what was going on more in the plot, I think it would have definitely been a better series in general, but it's definitely not bad. I'd say if you're just getting into Gundam, that's a good way to start. It's a good place to get into Gundam. Kind of eases you into the darker stuff that Gundam's known for. Kind of eases you a little bit into a space opera with a bit of a horror vibe to it. It's definitely not bad. Again, of course, you're talking about someone who's biased, whose favorite piece of Gundam media is Crossbone and pretty much anything late UC, but yeah, I mean, is it gonna be like my favorite of all time, 00? No. Is it better than Iron-Blooded Orphans? It's debatable. I mean, Iron-Blooded Orphans did spend more time with its characters and explaining more of what was going on, but which From Mercury is definitely up there in animation quality, fight scenes, the way things are handled. It's a good series. It's decent. I'd recommend at least giving it a watch. You really can't go wrong with watching it. It's not like you're going to walk away confused or angry. You're just going to walk away more disappointed and wanting a little more of that universe, because it is surprisingly really good with what it does. It does give you just enough to where you want these characters to succeed, but you also want to have more of a solid plot, more of a plot that's going to be able to get its footing a little better. But that's to be expected. That happens sometimes. I hope you guys liked this. Due to how tiny the kit was, I had to have the camera at kind of a weird angle. Sorry if things looked a little weird. The next video, I'll be reviewing an Iron-Blooded Orphans kit, and then I'll be taking a look at another Build series kit, and then eventually at some point, either this month or next, we'll be taking a look at the Eclipse Gundam and the Shinanju Master Grade. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Have a happy new year. I'll see you guys in the next one.